The Honourable Steve Chadwick.
Mr Chair, I'm not an expert actually in criminal justice, but it's quite good to get a perspective from across the House. But the procedure began actually, and I've heard members attributing this bill before the House today due to the Minister Simon Power, but I do want to take members back to the Law Commission report really in 2004 about delivering justice for all, which was the instigator of this change to a very complex legal construct. And it was Labour, actually, the previous Minister of Justice in 2007, that began this process of agreeing, on the one hand, that there was a need for reform in the criminal justice procedure and going about the drafting of this bill. And sadly, we've resulted in a bill that's huge, as members have alluded to, 526 pages, very, very complex, that has been considered by the Justice Select Committee, and I understand that was a very diligent process led by Chester Burrows. And I've heard different individuals in the House today talking about who attributes the success and the outcome of this bill to whom, and I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is one for all New Zealanders to have faith in the system and believe that the system will work for them, is transparent and is fair as they go through the criminal justice procedures. So most non-lawyers would say that this is, we'd agree with the Law Commission, who says the court system is an impenetrable maze for most non-lawyers. It is perplexing to us all. I do want to acknowledge today too in the House, I enjoyed hearing John Boscawen, probably your last speech in the House, but there's a man of principle and we don't always agree, but boy does he fight for his principles, and that's something that we as lawmakers like to see in the House. But it is sad to hear that this got a bit bogged down, this bill, and it did get bogged down because of the minor parties. And this is the strength of an MMP Parliament, the minor parties that actually said there are aspects to this bill that we find simply we don't accept. And they held out on this, and I'd like to acknowledge Charles Cheval, who held out and said we needed to look at changing the threshold for jury trials, defence disclosures and proceeding in defendant's absence and compliance cost orders. So well done to the minor parties that took on a reformist minister who's been seen as rather overzealous actually in the by the legal profession, who have really got the tatars about what pace of reform they've had to face. And I congratulate the minor parties for taking on the minister, but also we're really pleased that after the Select Committee process, the Minister did listen to our concerns, Labour's concerns, and we did want to see, though, one aspect of this that wasn't changed was greater certainty over sentencing provisions. And what a pity when a member like Charles Cheval, who has a deeply critical, analytical legal brain, the Minister chose to ignore. And it could have made a much more enduring piece of legislation. And I noticed Jonathan Tem, who does reside in Rotorua and is doing a wonderful job, has said we're going to be back in the House very soon to re-look at this, and I think it's because it hasn't been done in a cross-party considered approach. Even though Chester Burrows talked about the drivers of crime and Minister Power's attempts to look at the drivers of crime, I do remember the Honourable Leanne Dalziel having to ask if she could participate in that process, because we felt in Labour, just as we had dealt on domestic violence and family violence, and it seemed, and sexual abuse against women, to be much more enduring if all parties agreed. We had to invite ourselves in to that workshop on the drivers of crime, and they've had a good relationship ever since. So, Mr Speaker, we are supporting this bill now in the third reading debate because of the process that was followed at our request, and the minor parties request, and I do hope that we will see here that this restores confidence to what is a very complex and often perplexing issue of access to criminal justice in a fair way for all New Zealanders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.